You're listening to the SweetLife Entrepreneur Podcast. Simplified strategies to grow your service business and launch a life you love faster. With business mentor and entrepreneur activator, April Beach.
If you don't mind sharing that and just how your business model fits into your family and kind of a little bit behind why you do what you do, they're equally as interested in what we call life first business as they are to growing online businesses. So if that's okay with you, if you're comfortable with that, I'll ask you to share a little bit about you and your family and how you got into this. Also, I think a good intro into that is obviously diving into, how stages changed your life. And then we'll immediately pivot into talking about the how much more impactful stages are really than a lot of online marketing these days that we do. Sound good?
Easy.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for being here. I totally appreciate it. Okay.
Just your notes that I'm looking at too. So that's what JoJo sent me a few things. So anyways.
Okay. Awesome. Let me just make sure we're recording here because sometimes it gets a little bit weird in Skype. Okay, cool. Great. All right, you guys. Well, I am so stoked to have Pete Vargas here on the SweetLife Entrepreneur Podcast. Let me tell you, I first met Pete in person this past spring in Colorado Springs. And you guys know me. I don't attend a lot of events. And I went to this event with this open heart and open mind because I really wanted to impact more people with speaking. And when I sat down in this beautiful man with this teeny tiny baby walks on stage, and we were at this business event. I knew it was going to be a really special weekend, and everything that we're talking about today on the show, everything that Pete is going to share with you are all the things that I was exposed to this past spring here in Colorado. And I'm just so honored to bring Pete Vargas on the show. Pete, thanks so much for being here. Tell everybody a little bit about you, who you are, what you do.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm Pete Vargas. I believe that stages are the fastest way to grow your business. I absolutely believe that. They've been around for 2,000 years. They're not going anywhere. There's no algorithm that changes with them. They have been here for 2,000 years. They will continue to be here for the next 2,000 years. And I believe enough people just aren't doing stages correctly, yet they have a very powerful, I know your listeners, they have very powerful messages to take out into this world and change people's lives, change businesses. And so I'm passionate about stages, love stages. I don't love stages more than I love my family, but man, it would be number two. I'm married to my wife, Kim. We've got 3 beautiful kids that I keep saying 3. We have 4. Oh my God. We have 4 beautiful kids. We recently adopted I'm so backwards. We just recently gave birth to our very first biological baby 6 months ago. She just turned 6 months, have 4 amazing kids. Our first 3 were adopted from very tough situations and circumstances, and thought we were complete with those 3, love those 3 as though they're our own blood. And God just had a sense of humor a year ago and said, all right, 17 years of marriage. And I believe one of those things is he said, you've been faithful with what I've given to you, and I want to give you something else in return. And so we had a baby girl 6 months ago. It's our first time to get pregnant. And I love my family. And then, secondly, I love helping people get their message out on stages.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys already know now why I love Pete and why you're going to love Pete with this episode. So a lot of our listeners, Pete, are social entrepreneurs. So they build for-profit businesses so they can make a lot of money and give a lot of money away, and really design their business around their family. So see why I told you guys you would love Pete. He's exactly like us, and he's definitely walking the walk and a really great leader in this space. Okay, so let's kind of pivot a little bit. Talk about the elephant in the room. And I have to say this because for me personally, this is the biggest thing. I mean, I've had this podcast now for almost 3 years. I can speak to anybody through a microphone. But initially, the thought of getting up on stage and having people stare at me, like paralyzed me for so long. And I think so many people have this big message in their heart they want to share, and they're scared to do it. Is that your experience being the expert and leading people through stages, or what do you say to that?
Yeah, I think that there are people afraid of it, but I think there are people who just don't understand it well either. I think a lot of people think you have to be a professional speaker to go out and speak and get paid keynote fees and then be a road warrior and go from stage to stage and lose your family, lose your health, lose your everything. Like literally, I've seen it time in and time out. Like I've had so many friends call me that we're on the road 250 days a year and they're burnt out. And that's not what I see as speaking. Like anybody, unless you're in a season of life where you want to travel the world and you don't have kids and you're traveling with you just want to travel the world, then that model makes sense. Like that makes sense. But I advocate for stages to be a way to grow your business and get your message out there. And so one of the cool things about that is, some people have a fear of it, but I think some people's fear of it is not understanding it well. So one of the reasons a lot of people that we work with that are really, really big names in the industry have avoided it is because they thought they had to design like 10 talks and create a new talk every single time they went out on a stage. And, tomorrow I'm giving a talk and it's the same talk that I built 3 years ago. And I've just up-leveled it and made it better. So that to me is that's one of the big misconceptions. Like put the creative energy in at one time, get really, really comfortable with that talk. And you will see your fear of stages begin to dissipate because you've got it's not memory because you still put heart and feeling into it, but it's like you now know this talk. And so, yeah, a lot of people would rather be the body in the corpse in the tomb than the person giving the eulogy.
Right.
Which is crazy to me. You would rather be in there dead than the person giving the eulogy on stage. Like I heard someone put that a couple of weeks ago. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's not okay. And how we shift that, it's pretty simple. A couple of things. Number one, determine that we're going to get one talk dialed in. Not 5, not 10, not 20, one. You get comfortable with one, it becomes really, really powerful. Number two, have a pregame routine number two, practice that talk low stakes. Practice it in the mirror, practice it in front of your family, practice it in front of 5 people at a little meetup in your local community, and get really comfortable with that talk with low stakes practice. And now all of a sudden, I promise you, get practice with it, low stakes, go deliver it in front of a local crowd of 5 people and watch. You'll land more clients from that 5 or 10 people than you do in a lot of your marketing initiatives right now in your business by practicing to a small crowd. Number 3, have a pregame routine before you ever get on stage. And by the way, low stakes will become high stakes. Like you will begin to be like, wow, I got 5 or 10. Let's get 50 to 100. Let's get 1,000 to 2,000. And then before you know it, like I was on a stage of 30,000 people last January when 3 years ago I was barely on a stage of 12 people. So pretty crazy. Have a pregame routine. Like here's what I do in my pregame routine. Michael Hyatt said this was the number one thing that had him overcome the fear of speaking. He stopped thinking about all of his fears and worries and get out of his head. And he started getting in the head of the people in the audience. And how he did that, like every one of your listeners knows that they have a key to unlocking something in people's lives, in their mindset, in their businesses, in their digital marketing, in their technology, in their coaching businesses. They know their content changes people's lives. They all know that. And if they don't know that, then we really need to do a little bit of work, like a little bit of inner work on them. But most people know, I know I'm the best at stages. I just know it. I know I'm amazing at stages. But the problem is when I'm backstage, I'm not thinking about the stages impacting people's lives. I'm thinking about the fact that I'm overweight. Literally, this was the thing I faced. I'm worried about that I'm overweight. And does this clothes fit too tight? Do I look okay on stage? What are people going to be thinking about me? What are they going to be saying about me? What if my technology doesn't work? All of these other things are me in my own mind. And the simple shift is when you start getting out of your own mind and start getting out into their mind. And so now I just subtly change it to say, man, what if 50 people land 10 stages this next year? What if I show 50 people in this crowd to land 10 stages this next year? That's 500 stages. And if the average stage has, 100 people in it, That's 50,000 people's lives that are impacted because of what I'm about to deliver on this stage right now. And so I just start getting into their minds, and I start saying, Pete, give them the resources, give them the tools, give them the goods so that 50 people can be on 500 stages this next year. And now all of a sudden, think about the energy in these two scenarios. I'm overweight. Is my zipper down? Is this clothes fit tight? Like, versus the transitioning out of your mind into their minds. And so that is a process I go through. I actually meditate on that. I pray, and then I dance. So I meditate, I pray, and I dance. That's what I do before stage. And then it doesn't stop there. Then when you get on stage, you find someone on the left, on the right, and in the middle. And you talk to them as though you're having a one-on-one conversation. Look over here and find this person. Look over here and find this person. And look over here and find this person. And here's the power of it. You have a one-on-one conversation. And I want to tell you what, that person I find has positive energy and body language. That's who I'm looking for in the audience. Over here, over there, and over there. If I see someone like with their hands crossed and their face, I'm not looking at that, but I'm looking to the guy or the lady right next to that grumpy old man who's like smiling, and I'm locking in on him or her every section. And here's the irony. As I have a one-on-one conversation, I can't even see the rest of the crowd. So when I was in front of 30,000 people at Grant Cardone's big 10X stage, I remember who I looked at on the left, in the middle, on the right. And the irony of it all is all three of them actually became customers of mine. Now, because it was like I was so locked in just talking to them. All of your listeners know how to have a one-on-one conversation. And so they're doing this thing in their head that it's so much bigger than that. And so that's the methodology of how you say, no, I don't want to be the one in the corpse. I want to be, or in the casket. I want to be the one on the stage. Like, that shift of, because people would rather die than be on stage. And that's how you begin to shift it right there.
Wow, that's just insane. Oh, that just absolutely helped me, I know, so much. Okay, so we're going to shift real quick and go over 3 key points. I mean, this is your secret sauce. This is your method. These are your 3 steps to using stages to grow your business. And they are story, stage, and scale. Can you give me just a brief explanation of each one of those? And I want to let you guys know you're going to get much more of Pete. We're going to make sure links to where you can find him and this amazing webinar he has coming up here is going to be in the show notes for this episode. So I know we're covering a lot of important information in a short period of time. But don't worry, you'll find all this in the show notes for this show. Let's talk about your methodology and why these 3 S's are so incredibly powerful in building businesses through stages.
A lot of people out in the market, and I think your audience is completely different than this. A lot of people out in the market are these like theorists, or they're these like, folks that just kind of have this theory and these ideas of like, hey, here's how you change. And then you find out that they've never really done any of that in their business. And that drives me crazy. And so 3 steps aren't just like, oh, I think these 3 will work. No, they work. And I'll tell you why they work, is it comes from a place where I had a terrible relationship with my dad. My dad heard a speaker on stage whose daughter was the first girl killed at Columbine back in 1999. He heard this person in 2003. My dad, extremely abusive dad, my grandmother took me away from my dad. And after my dad heard this man speak, it's what literally prompted my dad to ask me for forgiveness for the abusive dad that he was growing up to me. He wrote me a letter. He said, I'm sorry for the father I've been. Here my son is having an impact on hundreds of kids' lives, and I can't have an impact on my only son's life. He asked me for a second chance to do things right, and he told me for the first time in a long time that he loved me. Now, here's the irony, is I called that man. And that man, I said, why aren't you getting your message out to more people across the world? He felt like the best kept secret. And so many entrepreneurs feel like the best kept secret. He was like, I know I have something that will change education. Like if I can get into schools, we'll change the culture of schools. We'll end teen shootings. We'll end teen suicides. Like we can put a dent in that. The problem is I cannot get in front of them to make that happen. And I said, cool. I'm going to figure it out for you. And I figured out this whole methodology by like hustling. And what I did is I booked his very first stage. I sent some emails. I sent some phone calls. I made some phone calls and I booked the stage. and it was in front of a dream stage, which is in front of your ideal clients. He thought parents and teachers were his ideal clients. And I want everybody to catch this. But it wasn't. And the reason I got so passionate about him is because of the letter that my dad wrote me. So I was very passionate about him. And so I booked. The problem was he was in front of teachers and students. That's not an issue. The issue is teachers and students don't control the budgets and the calendar. If we want to get in front of a lot of teachers and students, we need to get in front of principals and superintendents. And so as we got in front of principals and superintendents, the very first principal and superintendents conference we got in front of, there were like 400 in the room. I can't remember, 300 or 400 in the room. And literally from that one stage where there was no offer presented, an incredible talk on stage. Part one of this, what I'm about to teach everybody. The second thing, so your signature talk, he had to deliver that. The second thing he had to have was a stage, which was this stage. And the third thing that he had to have is scale past the stage, meaning attract customers into your business. And so he got on that stage, he gave away a free gift. 90% of the audience gave us their information. And in the next couple of weeks, he did more revenues from that one stage than he had done in the 12 months previous, by 5 times the amount. The 12 months previous, he had only done $52,000. And a lot of your listeners might feel like, man, that's where I'm at, like maybe 50, 60, 70, 80,000. One stage, 5 times the revenues in 1 hour. Not 1 year, 1 hour. And so since then, we've went on to book 25,000 stages across the world. And those stages have generated tens of millions of dollars of products and services that have come. And there are 3 key things that each of your listeners needs to begin to incorporate as they choose to use stages in the next 12 months. Because mark my words, if you follow this system, the next 12 months, I believe, will be the biggest 12 months that you've ever had in your business, which means you'll be able to do more socially, give away more, and just everything else. So first part is your signature talk. Your listeners need to know that they need to have one signature talk. And one. And whether they're delivering in 5 minutes or 60 minutes, the framework's the same. It's a pretty simple 4-part framework. This framework I'm about to give you, you can use on a podcast, a live stream, a coffee house, a phone call, a big stage, a small stage, a digital stage, a physical stage, and all of the above. So it's 4 parts. You start with the heart. People want to know, they want to connect with you right out of the get-go. And then the next thing they want to know is they want to know that you're ordinary, that you've been in their shoes, but you've also done something extraordinary that they haven't done or that they want to do in their business or in their life. And so that is the opening heart. Opening heart is human connection, helping people see that you're ordinary just like them, but yet you're extraordinary. Then you go to the head, which is the biggest piece of your time. You teach to the head now. Their hearts are open, their guards are down because you connected with them. Now you teach them their genius. You teach them the framework from moving from the ordinary to the extraordinary. It's your process to change. And so that's the second piece of the framework, is the head. The third piece is the hands, the call to action. You're either going to collect order forms if you're allowed to make an offer, which is very few times, or you're going to collect their leads, going to collect their names by giving them away a free gift, away. That's the third part of the framework. We need to capture their names so you can follow up with them. And then the fourth part of the framework is you close with the heart. That's where you close it down. When you will begin to use that framework to design one signature talk, this will become the greatest marketing tool you have in your business.
Pete, thank you so much for sharing that in such close detail. This is your methodology. This is what I learned from you. So many other people have learned this from you, and it's your story, Brian. I mean, this is your thing. This is what you do to help people change lives. And for those of you guys that are listening and you are starting from scratch, some of you I know have been on podcasts. Some of our listeners have been on stages, but you don't really feel like you're leveraging that well. So whether or not you are new to this and completely starting from scratch, or you have done speaking before, but you just really aren't nailing it. You just really aren't getting any traction whatsoever. There really isn't a strategy behind it or a plan. Then this is a really excellent episode for you to listen to, and some incredible special things we have coming up here in partnership with Pete. We'll make sure are in the show notes for this particular episode at sweetlifepodcast.com/146. And just in closing, I just want to share a story. During your event, I forgot when it was, when I was at this event with this group full of people that all had a mission on their heart, and you were helping us implement and just really taking that message to become the mission to the world. You had us write down our big, crazy goal. And you had everybody write these goals. And those of you guys that follow me on Instagram, I posted this all over Instagram. It was really a moving thing. When you're talking to people about their message, and this is the greatest, podcast audience to really talk about this because of their desire to give more than just making money. How can you express the power of sharing your message in your overall purpose? I mean, I can from a business standpoint. We always do it here on the show, but I would just love for you to just share in closing with our listeners how your core purpose aligns with your business, why that's so important to you, just to help them to have more inspiration incorporating that in their business as well.
I'm going to do that. And I so respect and honor the fact that kind of my timeline today. And I'm going to break my own rules and go about 4 minutes longer, because I know you're being honoring to me today. But I'm not going to open loop and leave them, because that's not who I am. And that's not who I am. There's point 2 and point 3 that we didn't talk about, but I promise you I will close with that here in just a second. So I'm not a guy that loves open loops, and so I don't want to open loop you. So you now have this talk, right? You have this talk. You now have to take it to stages. And here's what I want your audience to know. There are 8 digital stages that exist: podcasts, live streams, blogs and vlogs, webinars, summits. I could go on and on. But there's these 8 online stages, and these are digital or virtual, whatever you want to call them, online, digital, virtual. And then there's 8 offline, physical, analog types of stages. And what I want to really present as a big idea for your audience is the people who control those stages. We call them meeting planners or event planners or stage controllers. The person who controls the stage, what they want for you to present to them is to show them that you can solve a problem for them. And when they can see that you solve a problem for them, you begin to land their stages. And literally, I think about Karen Worstell, who wanted to start and launch her business, Chief Information Officer for Microsoft, I believe, and wanted to replace her full-time income in 0 to 6 months. She had a great full-time income. And the only strategy, she didn't use Facebook ads or funnels, and I'm not saying any of those things are bad. They're all good. I use them all. But she needed to get some income in her business immediately. And she went and took to one stage and attracted customers. And so what I really want to encourage your audience to know is the second part of, now that you have this talk with this framework, take it to podcasts, take it to webinars, take it to local stages, take it to live streams, take it to breakouts, take it to big rooms, small stages, take it everywhere. But there are so many stages out there, and don't worry, what you're linking to, we're going to give them 1,000 stages that are categorized by niche and industry. We've done all the work. So all they have to do is go take those stages, find the ones, circle 3 that are their dream stages, and begin to show them how you can solve a problem, which then leads to the third and final piece of it, which is, okay, I've got a great talk, Pete. I got it. I'm on stages. But in order to make sure that you're not a road warrior, let's now make sure that we attract customers after the stage. How do you do that? You give a free gift away. And the free gift is something that can be consumed in less than 15 minutes. And it gets the people a quick win in their life. Get them a quick win in their life. Get them a quick win in their life. They're not going to read your book or look at your 120 slides. They're just not. They're going to get something. So I think about some of the greatest quick wins I've gotten in my life. Somebody showed me how to have a better understanding of in 5 minutes or less, how I could really understand what's going on in my kids' world around technology, pop culture, and multimedia. I was like 5 minutes or less a week, and I can know what's going on in my kids' world. Done. Signed up for that baby. And then when they sent it to me, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then they got me a quick win. So I bought their whole year subscription because the 5 minutes I saw their genius. They got me from A to B. But as a parent, I wanted to go A to Z. I hope people can see this. Another incredible free gift somebody gave me. Hey, I want to give you the guide on how you can rent your house back to your company X amount of times a year. And I got this guide. I consumed it in 15 minutes. I went over it with my accountant. I did it. It saved me over $10,000 in taxes. And all of a sudden, when they followed up with me about their $25,000 program, no brainer, because you had already made me my money back. Not quite, but you had made me some money where I saw you help get me from A to B. Now, when you follow up with me, now I want to work with you. So the way that you scale a stage is by getting them a quick win with a free gift. And it doesn't stop there, and then following up with them. And now all of a sudden, a stage doesn't become worth a few $1,000s. It becomes worth tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Or the stage of 30,000 people that I was on, my dad was there, and I told that audience my BHAG, the same thing that you wrote down at my conference. I told them my BHAG. My big, hairy, audacious goal, thanks to Jim Collins. What is your mission? Like, what is that big thing that you're fighting for? All of you listening right now, mine was to help put our customers on 1 million stages by 2027. And we introduced that at the beginning of 2018. And in 18 short months, our students have already landed 47,000 stages across the world. And I told that stadium that day, do you realize you 30,000 people are all I need to hit that BHAG? You're it. You're all I need to hit that BHAG. And they sat there, and it was the first time that my dad had ever heard me speak and tell our story, our forgiveness story. And he heard me, and at the end, as I honored him, because my dad got a second chance to be a father, he had another baby. And my dad today is the most incredible father to my baby brother, who's only 13, 14 years old. And my grandkids, like, my dad got a second chance to do things right. And it all happened because of him hearing a person on a stage. That day, as that got shared and my BHAG got shared, and all of your listeners have their own mission that they're trying to take. That day, we didn't see 10,000 or 100,000 or even $1 million in revenues generated. We saw millions of dollars generated from one stage, 1 hour, from the power of a stage. And so that's why I want your audience and your listeners to take this seriously. That's why I want them to really subscribe to the training that we're giving, because we're going to go deep. This is a training we've charged $2,000 for in the past. And the only thing that we're charging right now is nothing, because of the fact that this training is literally to show them like the inside and out around all three of these pieces. But I didn't want to open loop it and leave the part 2 and part 3. So we got it. You're
an awesome guy. Thank you so much, Pete. Thanks so much for your time and everything that you're doing, and for giving us and our team a chance to be a part of what you're doing and speaking here. I can't wait for everybody to join your training this week. And truly a blessing, and powerful, powerful strategies and framework, you guys.